Good evening, everyone. Myself, Adiba Khan, and today I'm going to present you a brief session on planning and organizing. Before starting the video, I assume that everyone has taken the pre-assessment test. If not, please pause the video here only and go through the test link already sent via mail. Okay, so we'll start with today's agenda, which are introduction, planning, how to plan, types of plan, S-curve planning, example of S-curve, organizing, prioritized and sequence tasks, Kanban theory, Kanban practices, and last we have recap. Let's have a quick intro on planning and organizing. So planning involves thinking about and preparing tasks that needs to be done to achieve specific goals. Organizing involves managing the plan and arranging each task in the appropriate order by considering your time constraints and workload. It also includes preparing backup plans and solving problems. In the diagram here, we have a brief about the benefits of strategic planning and organizational analysis together. So strategic planning can contain short-term goals, intermediate goals, and long-term goals, whereas organizational may include clinical analysis, financial analysis, and operational analysis. These can result in increased efficiency, increased productivity, increased revenue, and decreased cost. Now moving to next slide, planning. So a planning can help in many ways. Set priorities for your work, then make sure tasks get done on time. Next, focus on one thing at a time. Then share work among staff, board members, and volunteers. Make your goals clear to funders. Then get a handle on a big projects by breaking them into smaller tasks. And last but not the least, see the big picture of what your organization is doing. The next slide is how to plan. So first one is decide on categories. First, think about all the work that your organization does and list all the general categories. For example, fundraising, community out research, website, and so on. Some big categories might be split up. Then we have set goals. Make sure the goals for your work in each category are clear. Ask yourself, where do we want to be with this work in a year or two or more? Then we have set tasks. Next, discuss each goal and talk about all the tasks that need to be done to achieve that goal. At this point, they don't have to be in order. Some will be more specific than others. The more specific, the better in general. You may not know how to reach some goals, yet it's fine to have a task list that looks like get fundraising training, create fundraising plan and schedule, carry out plan. Then we have plan a schedule. Make sure that all the tasks are listed. Number them. Then draft a schedule for the tasks, either when they will be completed or for ongoing tasks when they will begin. The goal is to set a schedule that is challenging but realistic. Then choosing responsibilities. Assign responsibilities by asking people to volunteer to be responsible for goals or tasks. If nobody is willing to volunteer for a particular task, ask the group if it is really necessary to do it. If the group decides, that is, try to break down into smaller tasks that might be easier to take on. Next is support. Brainstorm other individuals and organizations that can provide support, assistance, or advice in helping you carry out particular tasks or achieve general goals. Get support from other stakeholders like government departments, etc. Then we have follow through. Come up with a plan to check in, support and encourage people as they carry out the task. This may mean choosing one person to regularly check on the status of different tasks, or it may be a part of reporting back at meetings. Last, we have plan evaluation. Finally, set a time to revisit the whole plan as a group to evaluate how things are going and revise assignments and schedules. This may be a few months or half a year in the future. Next topic is types of plan. Planning is broadly divided into 4 types: business planning, performance planning, HR planning, and financial planning. Business planning helps to prepare for the growth and assimilate additional resources into the company. Performance planning: as your business grows, your business matrices will need to change to reflect your increasing activity. Then HR planning: keep the HR department updated on personal projections. Human resource group needs to continually acquire resumes. Last is financial planning. Keep your financing options available for your company, can be an important part of the growth of your company. Next, we'll see S-curve planning. So S-curve is a graphical display of cumulative man-hours, cost, progress, or other quantities plotted against time. And S-curve aims to represent the utilization of resources over the proposed time of the project. So what is typical S-curve? The term S-curve denotes the tendency of the cumulative curve to form a shallow S shape, flatter at the start, steeper in the middle, and flattening off again towards the end. This shape is typical for most projects as they start slowly and ramp up during the main execution phase, and then wind down again towards the project's completion as productivity declines and works run out. Although the S-curve derives from the S-like shape of the curve, don't be surprised if your S-curve is not in the shape of an S. The shape of an S-curve depends on the nature of your project. So it can be front-loaded S-curve or back-loaded S-curve. So front-loaded S-curves, you may find the front-loaded S-curve when the curve starts up steeply and then flatten out. As per graph, front-loaded curves have a rapid start. More resources assumed to be consumed early in the project. This may happen for respective projects that need little planning and preparation time. Other examples of front-loaded curves are for projects that have been accelerated from the beginning, or projects that need urgent repair of damage early on. Mobilization cost and deposits will also lean towards a front-loading S-curve. Back-loaded S-curve, curves that start out with a lower slope and increasingly steep towards the end of the project are typically back-loaded. In the back-loaded curves, most resources assumed to be consumed late in the project. A back-loaded S-curve could indicate a large planning or design in the beginning and a reduced construction time. This is one of the example of S-curve. The growth of S-curve is shown in 4 different stages. If you can see the right hand table, we have 2 types of input. One is the time bucket, which is on x-axis, and other is the growth on y-axis. If we see the stage 1, we have a growth of 10% in a time bucket of 8, which is slow growth. Now in stage 2, we have a growth from 10 to 70% in the time bucket of 8 to 15, which is obviously a fast growth. In stage 3, again we have a growth of 10%, that is 70 to 80% in a time bucket of 15 to 25, which is a slow growth. The last stage has no growth in a time bucket of 25 to 36, as the graph is linear. If we visualize the whole graph, it seems like a S-shaped curve, and this is the ideal trend for most of the company's work or production. Now the next slide is organizing. A very famous definition of organizing is it is a process of defining the essential relationships among people, tasks, and activities in such a way that all the organization's resources are integrated and coordinated to accomplish its objectives efficiently and effectively. So these are 5 simple steps to get organized at work. Create a routine. Actually use your email calendar. Have a central to-do list. Don't drop the ball on email. Make your workspace work for you. Let's have a brief on each one. So first one is create a routine. On your first day of work, start an organizational system. Before you receive a significant workload, you'll have an established routine to keep you on track. We can use sticky notes to create a weekly or monthly routine as shown in the slide, which can be easily accessible to track information, list tasks, and more. If your company uses a specific software, adapt to its various uses and organizational properties. For example, construction workers who don't use the normal office organization techniques should check out software that's specific to the industry. Second one is actually use your email calendar. A great way to stay on top of the meetings, deadlines, and tasks is to use the existing calendar on your email account. Whether you choose your work email calendar or a Gmail account, it's helpful to mark all events on the calendar. Since you'll constantly be using your email, you'll have easy and consistent access to this calendar. You can also use the calendar to add alerts, particularly for recurring events. If you have a weekly meeting, set up your calendar to automatically remind you. Similarly, you can use your work calendar to invite and set up meetings with co-workers. Third one is have a central to-do list. You may prefer to write tasks down on paper or use websites to keep you on track, such as Basecamp. Basecamp allows you to see all your assignments, update their status, and cross them off when finished. Organize your to-do list by creating a color coding system to distinguish the priority level or related subjects. If you keep your to-do list electronically, cross items off rather than deleting them. This way you will still be able to keep track of finished assignments and feel a sense of accomplishment. Fourth one is don't drop the ball on email. As your position develops, you will start to receive countless emails each day. Learning early how to prioritize and organize them will benefit you greatly throughout your career. Most email providers come with tabs and filters to organize emails into categories, including the ability to flag emails as important. This will also help you to quickly decipher which emails hold precedence. You should generally reply to every email as soon as possible. Last one is make your workspace work for you. You're going to spend the majority of your day in your office, your car, or wherever your workspace is. Remember to keep the space clean and organized. If you primarily do work at a desk, it's essential to your organization and sanity to keep it from getting out of control. In fact, messy desks can be dangerous. Keeping your physical space clean and your virtual workspace organized will help you stay focused and on task at work. This is the only way to stay on top of all your assignments while delivering quality work is to learn to prioritize tasks with extreme organization. Using these tips, you'll find that organization is not the daring feat you might have once viewed it as. The next slide is how to prioritize multiple tasks. In case of multiple tasks need to be done on a priority basis. We can use this 4 into 4 matrix to prioritize the task based on the urgency and importance. As you have seen in the table, the irrelevant cases have been marked with a cross sign, whereas the possible cases with the numeric value as per priority, like priority 1, I have given to the work which is urgent as well as important. Then priority 2 for the task which is urgent but not important. Priority 3 has been given to the task which is important but not urgent. Since this is not urgent case, so we have taken after the previous case. The last case is not important and not urgent, so the priority is 4. The table is really very useful while deciding the priority of multiple tasks. Also, we can have n cross n table where n is the number of factors deciding the priority of the task. Next is Kanban theory. So Kanban helps you visualize and break down large complex projects into manageable bite-sized tasks. Using a Kanban board can help you stay focused, making sure you are doing the right things. Kanban is a lean approach developed as a mechanism to pull materials and parts throughout the value stream on a just-in-time basis. In Japanese, the word Kanban means card or sign and is the name given to the inventory control card used in a pull system. The aim of a pull system is to produce only what is needed, when it is needed, and in the right quantities. In a lean manufacturing environment, Kanban is an advanced visual control system focused primarily on eliminating overproduction, increasing flexibility to respond to customer demand, and reducing cost by eliminating waste. Next, we have Kanban practices. So these are some of the practices, and these are not the process. So visualizing your work, the first practice is to visualize what you are doing. This includes both the steps in the process and what work you currently have. Next is limiting work in progress. This practice is about limiting work in progress, also called WIP. By setting limits, you are not allowed to bring more work in than you are able to handle. Next, we have managing flow. This practice is about improving the flow of a process so that time to market, also called the lead time, is decreased. Making process policies explicit. The fourth practice is about being clear about the process and the policies and principles behind it. This is to make sure everybody involved knows and follows the process and can suggest improvements of it. Next is implementing feedback loops. As per practice 3, we optimize the lead time to show delivery. But delivering fast is not everything. Delivering the right things is important. To know this, we need to know what the customers, the end users think, and how well the product contributes to your company's revenue and well-being. Here is where practice number 5 comes into the picture, the need for getting feedback from people outside of your system. There is also a need for feedback loops within a system to make sure we deliver the expected functionality with the right quality. Here is where different kinds of tests come into the picture. Last, we have improving collaboratively, evolving experimentally, using models and the scientific method. So this is the one that makes Kanban more interesting as well as more complicated. This practice helps us to use all the theories about flow you can find and apply it to your process in order to fulfill practice number 3, which is optimizing lead time. These theories can be lean, queuing theory, gaming theory, theory of constraints, and probably many more. This will take a while to learn, but it will be worth it in the long run. The practice also tells to take decision of changes in conscious to make sure, in consensus to make sure everyone is aligned with the decision. Now let's summarize what all we have covered. So about planning and organization, then how to plan, types of planning, then we have learned the S-curve planning and about an example, then organizing, then how to prioritize and sequence the task, and last we learned Kanban theory. We'll send the assessment link with all of you through mail. Please do attend it. Thank you very much and have a nice day.